Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's Resto, and we're going into the Fire Mage guide, keeping it short and sweet like I've been mentioning in the other videos. Just focusing on the main things that you guys need to know with the Twinks. I'm not going to get too in-depth like I do with the other ones. I can go into that when Cataclysm hits, if the gear is subject to change. Like I said, this isn't official. Things can change when Cataclysm comes out, so take this with a grain of salt. However, this is what you're going to want to go for when it does release. So let's dive into it. I'm going to dive into exactly how I did this Fire Mage first. Before I even dive into it, there's two different ways you can gear a Fire Mage. One is through crit haste, the crit build, or two is the mastery build. I am probably the only person that plays on this server. Do not recommend joining it, by the way, but the only person that plays on here that goes for the crit build. Everyone else runs mastery. Mastery is nice. You can do a lot of damage on it. Mastery is going to be nice for like team fights if you have like a war game or whatever. But however, I do recommend the crit haste build. Personally, for me, that's just how I like playing it. That's how it's always been played, even going into Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Drain, etc. You know, it's always been crit haste. So with the reason behind it, mastery increases the periodic tick damage of your spells. So Living Bomb is going to be your go-to spell when it comes down to that. Even as a crit haste build, you still want to apply this. A lot of damage. But however, this can be dispelled along with all the other the ticks that you have on the person. All that can be dispelled, completely gone. So I don't like that. I don't like how my damage relies off of ticks that can be dispelled. So I chose crit haste, so that way I can completely dive into somebody with some more pyroblast, etc. With the mastery build, you're not going to be pumping out pyroblasts here and there. You're mainly going to be focusing on living bomb and your fire blast. That's mainly where all of your spells are going to come from, and spamming scorch. I mean, that's it. But with the crit haste build, you get a wide range of everything. That's what's nice. You can't dispel that other than CC it. So that's why I like the crit haste build. That's my preference. However, with this build, I have a little mix of both. So that way I have a high crit, but I also have a little bit of mastery built into it. So that way I'm able to have the best of both worlds while still maintaining a high crit haste ratio. So with that being said, let's dive into it. First stat I want to hit is the hit chance. With an 80 Twink, you want to have at least 18.5 to 19% hit. You will be missing level 84s if you have anything lower than that. If you want to hit level 85s, you got to get to like 22%. Don't really care about that because in Cataclysm, 85s are going to be so rare, it's not even worth it. It doesn't even matter. So 19% is really what you want to shoot for when it comes to a level 80 Twink. That way you're able to land your spells and not miss anything. So moving on to the first piece of gear, we're looking at the, I can't even pronounce it, I don't even want to butcher it, but it comes from the first boss of Throne of Tides. What you're looking at here is putting the 26 intellect and 20 crit from the faction of Wyrm's Accord. You're going to go ahead and reforge the spirit into crit, so that we have a good crit mastery helm right there. Moving on to the neck, you're looking at the pipefish cord. Don't need to change anything about this, leave it as is. This comes from the very last boss in Throne of Tides as well. Then you're looking at the Crystal Mantle. This is going to be reforged into Critical Strike. You're also going to put the 24 spell power, 15 crit on this as well to give you the best of both worlds. Then you're looking at the Periwinkle Cloak. You're going to go ahead and put 70 spell pen on this, guys. You want to make sure your spells are not getting resisted. What I shot for it was about 120. You really just want to go for 100 spell cap or 100 spell pen, not spell cap. 100 spell pen, that's really all you need, but 120 is what I have, just because there's really no other option in terms of keeping less spell pen. So 70 plus 5, 120. But you're going to go ahead and reforge the mastery here into Critical Strike. That's what I did here, so that way you have the best of both worlds. And then for the chest piece, you have the Inquisition robes. You're going to go ahead and put the 20 stats on here. This is a 300 plus eye level, so you can put some Cataclysm enchants on your gear. This goes for all the gear besides a few, which are two pieces, which are the boots, the legs, and then the bracers. With the chest piece, you want to go ahead and reforge the mastery into Critical Strike because you do want that hit. That hit is very important. Moving on to the bracers, we're going to go ahead and put 40 stamina on this. This comes from Wrath of the Lich King. And then we're going to go and reforge our mastery into critical strike, keeping our haste. The Dust Silk bracers are crafted from tailoring, so super easy to get. Shouldn't be an issue at all. Moving on to the two-handed staff that comes from Throne of Tides as well. We're going to go ahead and reforge our our haste into crit that we have best of both worlds. Now, the reason why we want to go with the staff and not a mace and an offhand is because of the hit. The hit is the only reason why we're going for this staff. Otherwise, 100% yes, go with the mace or the dagger and the offhand. But in this case, we need the hit. Moving on to the wand, we're looking at the Corliss baton. We're going to go ahead and reforge this again, keeping the hit, but reforging the mastery into critical strike. That way we're getting best of both worlds again. Moving on to the hands, we got 65 mastery because there's really no other thing to put on here other than that. So I like to keep that. Haste isn't really that much needed. Like I said, I wanted to get to at least a 15%. You don't really need anything more. Anything past that, you're moving the cast time down by like 0.2. Not really worth it. So I just put mastery on it. So that way I'm actually benefiting from something and getting use out of it. But this, you don't need to reforge anything. Keep it as is. It's got everything you need. The belt is the Beauty Silken's ribbon. Now, I went and reforged the haste into mastery. There are people that use a green belt rather than this belt. I 100% would rather have this belt because of the intellect and the stamina increase, but also the off stats. A lot of people go with the belt, the Daromir belt, which is this, and they went with that because it has the off stats. That's great and dandy. I'd rather have the stamina. As an 80 twink, you could flop real quick. So I 100% went with the stamina and intellect increase for the magnitude while still having these off stats. The difference between the two is very minuscule. The only big difference are the off stats, and I don't think that's worth it. So I didn't go with that. I chose this. With the pants, you got to go with the Daromir leggings of Fire Flash, Crit Haste. I do have a pair of pants for haste mastery, so that way when you're going into the mastery build, you have this as well. There are these pants that you can go for as well if you really wanted to, but I don't recommend that, only because these are slightly better by a very minuscule amount, but these are best over these. This comes from a quest chain in Hyjal. But yeah, Daromir will always be on top of this, but you can rock this until you get a pair of Daromir belts. Completely up to you. Now, when it comes to the enchant, you're going to put the spell thread on it, the 65 stamina, 55 intellect. That way you have some survivability as an 80 twink. Moving on to the boots, we're looking at the Daromir sandals of Fever Flare. This is going to be haste mastery with crit. I have this right now because it is still hard to get this in Fire Flash. So I'm rocking this in the meantime. Until then, this is something you can run when you're running the mastery build, but I have 36 stamina on here because it is a 289 eye level and nothing else really works. You could use sure-footed if you really wanted to, but that's just extra hit. That could top you off over 19% if you really wanted to, but I chose stamina instead because that's more important as the level 80. Level 80, you are super squishy. You could die really quick, so survivability really matters. Moving on to the rings, you're looking at the Anthea's ring. I'm enchanting, so I have 60 stamina on this, but I reforged the mastery into crit. Like I said, it doesn't matter that much as a crit haste build, so mastery is on my least of the priority list. And then I have the Finkel's Twinkle. Go ahead and reforge the haste into hit, just to give you that extra amount of hit that gets you to where it is. Like I said, I was shooting for 19% as close as possible. I think I'm right there, so that's where I was kind of going for. Now the trinkets, this can be a little tricky. So with enchanting, I would go engineering with Fire Mage as well. Engineering as a level 80 Fire Mage is a must in my opinion because of the survivability that you guys have to deal with. The bombs will help a lot with kiting, and same with the blazing boots. It will help a lot with kiting. So the trinkets that I have right now is the Sea Star. I reforged the Spirit into critical strike, and then I have the Witching's Hourglass, which is a nice boost in haste when it does proc. However, what you can do, if you don't care about the 200 intellect, you can keep this trinket for the proc and then, or not the proc, but like the on use, and then use the alchemy's trinket, because alchemy trinket is bis. It's going to be really nice with the gem slot. So 80 twinks definitely should take advantage of the alchemy trinket. However, if you don't want to do that, any of these trinkets will do as well. But these are the two trinkets that you would use on side of the medallion, or not the medallion, the alchemy. I personally don't use the medallion a lot. I find myself just sticking with this. Me personally, when I get stunned, I just blink out of it. That's usually what I use my blink for, or to keep that distance. So I don't really find myself in a lot of situations where I need to get out of a stun. I'm usually able to like maneuver myself really well. So I've noticed that a trinket for me personally isn't that much of a need, whereas someone else might need the trinket more because maybe they're not as experienced and they need that little assistance getting through things, on learning how to position, etc. So it's up to you on how you want to use the medallion, or if you don't. But I definitely recommend using an alchemy. If not, like I said, I'm running enchanting right now, so that way I have the stamina enchants on my rings to give me that extra boost. But more importantly, I'm usually using this for my own enchants, so I can do that as well. However, engineering and alchemy if you're not going to be enchanting on your mage. So those are the two that I would recommend. When it comes down to the talents, this is what I'm running. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. There's not really much to it. This is the build that I personally like to run. I would run it a little differently if I was a level 84. I would change some things around, but it wouldn't be too much of a difference. It'd more so be on the frost side. But this is pretty cookie cutter. You know, this is really what you would run in terms of a fire mage. There's not really much to kind of play around with, if I'm going to be honest with you. Definitely want to make sure you're getting improved counter spell. That's pretty huge. You can definitely blanket some people and then like open on them and kill them within that blanket. So pretty straightforward. Like I said, pause it, look at it, copy it, do what you gotta do. This is the glyphs that I run. I run the glyph of Pyroblast, increases the critical strike, so obviously you want this. Glyph of Fireball, this increases the critical strike, obviously go with this. And then the glyph of Living Bomb, and increases damage, obviously go with this. These are like the go-to cookie cutter, never swapping out of this. Moving on to the major glyphs, we got glyph of Blink, Frost Armor, and Evocation. This right here is a game changer. It will save your life. Definitely get this. But these three are definitely going to be a cookie cutter as well. Must have, gotta have, etc. And then the minor glyphs are kind of on you. I went with Glyph of the Penguin, Glyph of Arcane Brilliance, and Glyph of Slowfall. Obviously Slowfall, but the Glyph of the Penguin I chose. Some people use armors, increases the duration of your armor by 30 minutes. I don't really care, so I chose a penguin, so that way they get transformed into a penguin. That's just what I like, but these are the glyphs that I would run. Like I said, short and sweet, not much to it, just showing you guys what I got. Hope you guys learned something new. I'm going to start working on the next class. Other than that, stay tuned. It's been Resto, guys. See you guys next time.